I think the country needs to look at improving social protection.
Program pencen makin meningkat sebab gaji banyak awam, dia tak tahu ada kenaikan.
We should be more particular about the kind of investments we accept.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the latest episode of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Amalina Kamal.
And I am Prasanna Nambia.
And this is your one-stop for the top stories that made the headlines and more. Now, in this particular episode, we will be discussing news surrounding the developments of the government's proposal to review or even do away with the civil servants pension scheme. Now, why is this such a hot topic? It's because while reports have said that the transition to, contribution-based retirement schemes like EPF and Perkeso is, will provide long-term financial stability to the country, there are still concerns surrounding the attractiveness of civil service positions as well as retention to potential recruits. But Prasanna, maybe from a business perspective, what does this scenario brings us?
Actually, I think if you're talking about why they're even looking at doing away with the pension is because basically the bill is getting higher and higher every year. I think this year alone they're expecting about 10% of the operating expenditure for the government to go to pensions, which is, I guess, if you look at it in economic terms, that doesn't really bring in productivity, is operating expenditure, right? So if you can, and this bill will grow. So if right now it's 10%, it could actually grow much further in the years to come. So the idea is, I guess, to try to keep that bill from growing that much.
Right, I understand. I suppose we will be discussing, but in the last segment for this particular episode, we will also be touching on the Malaysian ringgit hitting another new low against the Singapore dollar. However, despite this news, experts still think that the cross-border movement between Malaysia and Singapore might be advantageous to Johor businesses. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest that's here on set today. Joining us are two esteemed panelists. First up, we have University Malaya's Director of Social Wellbeing Research Centre, SWRC, Professor Datuk Dr. Norma Mansor. Welcome, Professor.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih.
Now, Datuk Norma is also the President of the Malaysian Economic Association, and she was also formerly the Secretary of the National Economic Advisory Council under the Prime Minister's Department between 2009 to 2011. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Next, also together with us, to talk about the civil service pension, we have Cuepacs' very own Secretary General Abdul Rahman Mohd Nordin. Welcome, Cik Abdul Rahman. Okay, so for this particular segment, right, I just want to give this sort of like grim reality again, echoing whatever person has said. Now, the civil service, according to reports, has become a heavy burden in Malaysia, costing us about 32.4 billion, or at least 10.5%. In the 2024 budget. And this is expected to increase to 46 billion by 2030. Now, I would like to relay the question to Datuk Norma first. Maybe you could elaborate further in terms of the potential cost savings for the government by phasing out this particular traditional pension scheme.
Thank you, Amalina. Thank you for having me. I would respond to your question by looking at the overall social protection, because that's where I'm coming from. I'm doing a lot of work. Our center, the Social Wellbeing Research Center, we are working on social protection, and civil service is part of the social security in the country, or the social security system. So it should not be looked at in isolation. Yeah, of course, if you talk about bills, it will increase, but the budget will also increase. Yeah, so it's not a number that is within a static size of the budget. But I think it has to be taken into perspective, into the context of social protection. And I think the country needs to look at improving social protection system in the country. Now we have two systems. Yeah, one is the civil service pension, which is defined benefits, and it is supposed to be a contribution both coming from the employees and also the government as employers. And the other scheme is the EPF scheme, which is defined contributory. Yeah, and of course you have the LTAT, which is also contributory, but it's still not covering 40% of the Malaysian adult population.
That's right.
Or the Malaysian workforce. Yeah, 40% of the Malaysian workforce are not covered by these two or three schemes that I mentioned. So, and yet, when Social Security is supposed to be the right of every citizen,
Right.
and it is, we are a UN, a member of the United Nations, and in the ILO convention, it's very clear that when an older person or when one retires, the income security is one of the principles that we should adhere to. And it should be 40% of the reference budget. So I would recommend, or Malaysia should look at how we want to strengthen, or we want to enable that every Malaysian would at least have 40% of the income when they are retired. So the word pension would mean pension does not refer to public pension or private pension. Pension would mean an income or regular income that one receives when one retires. Yeah, so we should have one system where everyone should receive some kind of pension, and the recommendation is that we should go for multi-layered type of pension. The lowest layer, because not everyone, as I mentioned, many women are not contributing to either EPF and they are not in the civil service. So they are out of the Social Security, and there are people who, for some reason, was never part of the formal system, so they do not have the Social Security. So because of that, you will need the lowest, the what you call the social protection floor, or the lowest pillar or lowest layer of pension. So that is usually an old age or social pension. In developed countries, OECD countries, we have that. So that should be tax funded. It's the second layer that we are talking about now, which is the Social Security. But because not everyone, so at least 40% of the Malaysian workforce is not in the Social Security layer where they contribute, that lowest layer has to be looked into as well. So at the government level, or we have what we call the Malaysian Social Protection Council, which is chaired by the Prime Minister, should be looking into how do we strengthen social protection that is not just about civil servants, but even the private sector, the EPF, people who are contributing to EPF. When they retire, they're able to take the lump sum. They spend the money within 2-3 years. So we have a group of poor senior citizens.
Right.
And if civil servants, again, do not have, at least currently you can say that 1.6 million civil servants would have income security when they retire. But that will be part of the rest of the senior citizens, because as we know, evidence out there shows that for EPF contributors too, after 3 years, the money is gone. So the government has the burden of supporting everyone if we are not looking into strengthening the social protection in the country. So the issue is more complex.
Hence, echoing to what you just mentioned, Datuk, I want to ask Cuepacs this. Mungkin Encik Rahman boleh terangkan sedikit. I just want to understand Cuepacs' backlash in terms of this proposal of reviewing or at least doing away with the pension scheme. Bantahan tu bukan ke patut disalurkan ke terhadap rakyat Malaysia, because diorang tak semestinya faham kepentingan retirement savings ni. Kita pun pernah tengok report-report yang lepas, ada banyak yang nak keluarkan diorang pergi KWSP sebelum the retirement age. Kita nak faham Cuepacs punya point of view juga.
Pension adalah satu anugerah yang setelah kita berkhidmat selama 40 atau 30 tahun, anugerah daripada kerajaan sebagai mengenang jasa dia menjalankan tulang belakang kerajaan. Jadi dalam artikel 147 perlembagaan telah dimaktubkan mengenai pension. Jadi dalam segi kewangan, memang kita memahami kerajaan kewangan tentang untuk membayar yang bayaran pension makin lama makin meningkat. Berikan pencen mungkin meningkat sebab gaji pajak awam dia tak tahu ada kenaikan, tapi dia tak naik berapa persen, dia cuma naik menggunakan KGT. Mungkin bagi golongan bawah dia dapat naik RM80 atau RM1. Bila naik pencen pun akan naik.
Ya.
Kan?
Betul.
Bila pencen naik, kerajaan kena mencari dana untuk membayar tabungan pencen. Sekarang kita ada Cuepacs, kita tak ada masalah sangat lah. Kawan-kawan ni Cuepacs pun tengah menjana caruman-caruman daripada pajak awam yang mencarum untuk ke pencen. Kalau kita ikut kan, bila dia menghadapi nak kenaikan ni, bila menghadapi tentang bila esok berlaku perubahan skim, perubahan tangga gaji, perubahan allowance, sebab dia melibatkan semua tu. Sebab dia meningkat dibandingkan tahun 80 tu. Jauh beza dia. Jadi itu sebab kena cari satu mekanisme, kerajaan kena cari satu mekanisme, duduk bersama-sama kesatuan kerja bersama pihak yang berkepentingan dengan juga majikan pekerja, duduk satu bincangkan macam mana kita nak mengatasi masalah ni. Bukan kita terus memasuk aja. Kena cari jalan.
Jadi Encik Rahman setakat ni tak ada perbincangan lagi.
Sebenarnya dulu dah ada buat bincangan. Dia nak kaki tangan dia mencarum. Tapi akhirnya pada keputusannya nampak ada yang masih boleh diterima. Dia punya cadangan tu tak memuaskan. Sehingga sampai hari ni masih belum ada dipanggil untuk isu pencen ni.
But it's tough to make everyone happy kan Encik Rahman?
Memang ramai yang tak happy. Bila dia keluarkan kenyataan tu, macam kaki tangan ni dia rasa sikit moral lah. Seolah mereka sekarang ni tak dihargai. Kalau kita tengok masa COVID, siapa yang ke depan? Pajak awam. Di hospital, di jalan raya. Sebab nak jaga rakyat. Itu kita kena tengok pentingnya pajak awam.
Mungkin ada juga cabaran untuk penjawat awam ni, because diorang dah bekerja 30-40 tahun dengan pihak kerajaan, lepas tu diorang memang look forward to the pension yang mereka akan dapat. But to just rely on pension untuk kita mengharapkan pencen je, kita boleh survive ke at the end of the day dengan pencen yang kita dapat tu? At least untuk grade 40 ke bawah. 40 ke bawah tu.
Sebenarnya kalau ikutkan grade 40 ke bawah ni memang tak cukup. Sebab dia pencen dalam 1,000 lebih ataupun 2,000 saja. Memang untuk kos sara hidup sekarang tak boleh. Sebab kos sara hidup di bandar, bagi mereka duduk bandar, memang dia tak boleh menampung untuk kos sara hidup. Kos di bandar ni, kalau ada satu family you tak ada dalam 10,000, 14,000 di KL, you tak boleh sara hidup. You kena banyakkan yang grade B40 ni dia akan mencari kerja lain untuk menampung keluarga. Sehinggalah kalau dia anak-anak ni dah bekerja dan boleh menampung kos sara hidup dia dalam 10,000 dalam family tu, mungkin ibu dan bapa ni mungkin yang bersara tu mungkin boleh tak perlu cari kerja lah, mungkin dapat penampungan. Sebab kos sara hidup family dalam KL ni 10-14,000. Kita keluar mana pun kena bayar. Berbanding kita duduk kat Perlis.
Then we go back to, I think, Datuk's suggestion earlier about having a multi-layer system when it comes to pension. So Datuk, do you think that now what the government is proposing by doing away with pensions for the new civil servants, is that part of a plan that could go into this multi-layer system, or what was it? What is UM actually suggesting, or your organisation?
Thank you very much. I think that is what it should be. That's what it should be. Yeah? It should be part of the overall reform with regards to social protection, because we do spend a lot on social for social purposes, but it does not necessarily improve the inequality that we have in the country. So looking at civil service pension, and of course it will not affect the current civil servants. We're talking about the future recruits, where they would contribute to the EPF and SWRC. And we are hoping, we are proposing to the government, there are a few organizations working with us with the Social Wellbeing Research Centre to propose to the government to look for a more an integrated social protection system where everyone will be assured of some income when they retire. Yeah, so it's like our neighboring countries. Of course, OECD countries, developed countries have this. They will have the lowest layer, what they call old age pension or social pension, pension where it is government funded. Yeah, it's tax funded. And everyone should be on the second layer as well. But as I mentioned, the second layer, if you are a housewife, you don't contribute into EPF or SOCSO or the civil service pension. So we should make everyone contribute when they reach the age of 18, if they can. If they cannot, then maybe they should either opt out, or the government can also support or contribute on behalf of the poorer segments of the society, and this way there will be a bigger sum where we can invest, and the investment can be very profitable, just like the way the EPF would fund its dividends. So dividend should contribute towards pension. So what I'm saying is that part of the EPF contributions should be reserved for paying out pension. A certain percentage, maybe 5%, 4% of the contribution should be towards paying when you have retired, maybe at the age of 70 or 60 when you are retired. You can take the lump sum at the age of 55 or 60, so, a bigger portion of it, but a certain percentage should be retained to become a monthly income, as you mentioned, Amalina, even government pension, civil service pension, even with the pension that they receive for the low income, it's not enough for them to sustain their living. So you will need an additional income. So what will be the passive income if it doesn't come from either your savings or your investment? So that's those savings that come from the next layer, or the contribution that you have done during the active working life, that should be your retirement income.
Because in actual fact, actually there's a bigger issue. Instead of just targeting civil servants pension, we also know that EPF members themselves have issues in actually having enough when they retire.
And so the irony of it all,
when they take within 2-3 years, when all the you allowed everyone to withdraw the lump sum, they evidence shows that they will be without any balance in their savings.
So any form of reform should not only be targeting civil servants pension, but should actually look at it as a whole. Look at all the different types of pensions and how can we actually make sure that at the end of it, when you retire, you actually have a livable income, I guess.
Exactly. And if I can add, it is not any particular segment of the society's issue. It is a national issue. So we should have this conversation that what will be the kind of appetite, the kind of risks we are willing to take in order for us to have a better and a more comfortable old age, happy retirement lives that you can look forward to. But if we don't, as a society, collectively, because collectively you can gain more by having a bigger sum of investment and to fund the pension or the retirement income.
Right. We also have on the line with us the Joint Council of Presidents and Honorary Secretaries of Malaysian University Staff Union. Zulkifli Muhammad is the president. Welcome, Cik Zulkifli, to Beyond the Headlines. Saya nak tanya soalan yang pertama, mungkin bagi pihak GAKUM boleh terangkan sedikit antara sebab-sebab yang mempengaruhi penolakan pemansuhan pencen dari kalangan penjawat awam ini.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih atas persoalan tersebut. Yang saya kira cukup penting dalam suasana sekarang ini, yang isu kegelisahan penjawat awam soal pencen yang disebut oleh Perdana Menteri, yang dibawa oleh Timbalan Perdana Menteri. Jadi boleh dikatakan kegelisahan ini meratalah, seluruh penjawat awam gelisah dengan apabila pencen ini nak ditarik balik dan juga penjawat awam nak dikontrakkan peringkat awalnya. Okey, kita kena faham bahawa 60 tahun pencen ini berjalan dengan lancar dan ini memberikan banyak kemudahan kepada penjawat awam yang merupakan nadi kepada kerajaan, Yang Seri kepada kerajaan, dan telah pun membina kepada kerajaan hampir 60 tahun lebih, Dan juga semangat pencen inilah yang memberikan kepada penyaut awam untuk terus kerja dengan semangat. Baik, kalaulah katakan pencen ini dikatakan banyak sangat sampai sudah melampaui kos yang terlalu tinggi. Kalau kita lihat, pencen ini yang tingginya adalah di peringkat atasan. Umpamanya di peringkat parlimen, menteri, yang mereka ini tinggi pencen-pencen mereka. Tetapi kalau kita kira hanya kumpulan-kumpulan servant yang di peringkat penyaut awam, yang di peringkat awan ini, dia tidak banyak. Sebab 40 tahun dia bertugas, 30 tahun dia bertugas sebagai penyaut awam, baru dia dapat pencen. Itu pun bukanlah banyak sangat, hanya sekitar beberapa persen, beberapa peratus saja. Maknanya separuh saja. Yang kita kira yang ini saja yang ada, tidak banyak. Kalau dikira itu saja. Dan kalau inilah salah satu di antara yang kita lihat bahawa peranan kerajaan dan sumbangan kerajaan kepada penyaut awam yang telah memberikan tenaga mereka, masa mereka, masa ketika mereka muda, dan akhirnya membawa kepada mereka di hari tua. Dalam keadaan di hari tua itu mereka menghadapi hari yang penuh dengan sakit dan sebagainya, termasuk dikelilingi oleh cucu dan sebagainya. Maka pencen itulah yang membantu mereka ketika hari itu.
Okey, terima kasih Encik Zulkifli. Kita faham dari segi itu semua, tapi bukankah Timbalan Perdana Menteri kita Datuk Seri Zahid Hamidi sendiri berkata yang pencen untuk pengambilan baharu sahaja. So the new hires will only be affected.
Ya, memang dia tidak efek kepada orang yang telah lama. Tetapi apabila pencen apabila sudah ditiadakan, ditiada langsung. Mana selepas itu pencen tak ada lagi lah. Dan orang yang lama ini juga pun sudah lama semakin habis. Dan apa lagi keistimewaan yang ada sebagai penyaut awam kepada kerajaan apabila pencen itu ditiadakan sama dengan orang lain. Apatah lagi disebut sebagai kontrakkan dulu. Banyak perkara, kesan daripada yang lain dan sebagainya. Satu. Yang kedua kena ingat, walaupun orang yang bekerja swasta dan sebagainya, tetapi di dalam keluarganya pasti akan ada anak cucu dia yang bekerja sebagai penyaut awam. Dan mereka ini bekerja sebagai penyaut awam dengan adanya pencen, maka dia akan membantu keluarga dia. Mak dia, nenek dia sebagainya itu. Dalam konteks semua perkara lah, kemudahan-kemudahan yang ada dalam pencen. Jadi maknanya walaupun dikatakan selepas itu bukan melibatkan pada orang lama, tapi terkesan juga kepada penyaut awam. Dan terkesan kepada juga kepada orang yang akan bekerja itu nanti.
Okey, tapi saya nak faham sekarang mungkin dari segi pandangan Encik Zulkifli atau pihak Gakum tentang contract issuance.
Kita tak tahu macam mana kontrak yang nak ditetapkan itu ada terlalu lama. Sekarang ni kontrak pun ramai. Bayangkan sebenarnya kontrak sekarang ni ada sampai 5 tahun. Ada 6 tahun, melebihi daripada 4 tahun. Bayangkan mereka dikontrak sampai 4 tahun. Sedangkan itulah mereka dah 4 tahun buang masa. Kemudian nak bekerja dia tetap lagi. Kemudian duit gaji itulah nak digunakan berbagai-bagai kegunaan pinjaman, perumahan dan sebagainya, kenderaan sebagainya. Tapi oleh dia dikontrakkan terlampau lama, akhirnya mereka bahkan ada yang lebih lama dekat 10 tahun pun ada kontrak. Penyelesaian kontrak pun tidak banyak lagi tidak selesai. Tambah kita nak buat lagi isu yang baru nak dikontrakkan. Lagilah akan bertambah banyak lagi. Dan hilang mood rakyat bagi anak-anak muda yang nak bekerja. Sebab harapan mereka bila mereka graduate dari mana-mana pun, bagainya mereka harapan mereka penyumbang tenaga mereka kepada kerajaan dengan benefit yang ada. Iaitu pencen tadilah. Jadi rata-rata kita dapat keseluruhan bagi kumpulan-kumpulan ini bagi penyaut awam ini memang cukup gelisah, tidak bersetuju, marah pun ada, bahkan ada nak kata nak buat perhimpunan pun ada, bahkan berbagai kerana dia tidak boleh menerima hakikat pencen ini untuk ditiadakan kerana sudah 60 tahun lebih mereka kita ini dalam keadaan yang cukup orang kata bahagialah, dalam keadaan selesa lah bila di hari tua.
Okey, jadinya kontrak yang berskalakan KWSP ni tidak menarik langsung. Mungkin Encik Zulkifli boleh terangkan lagi?
KWSP yang disebut tadi kan. Bagi kumpulan kita ini yang grade 54 saya kira lah di bawah ini. Kalau sekadar dengan KWSP yang dia masuk yang 9 hanya 19%, apabila bersara berapa ratus sangat, berapa ratus ribu je. Dia tak sampai pun 600,000, sejuta dan sebagainya. Paling tinggi 300,000 pun payah, 400,000 itu je pun kalian ada. Dengan bayar hutang, bayar semua sekali dan sebagainya, rumah akhirnya habis. Selepas itu macam mana nak buat? Duit di tangan, cash dah lain cerita. Sebab itulah 6 agensi yang telah diswastakan. Ingat dah, TNB, Telekom, dan yang lain ada 6. Mereka pun menyatakan bahawa apabila tidak pencen, mereka memang susah sangat. Walaupun dia kata KWSP dia dapat dulu, tapi duit tu habis. Dan akhirnya sekarang mereka tak boleh nak buat apa. Jadi dia kata walaupun pencen tu 1,000, dia kata itu boleh membantu mereka sendiri ketika di hari itu. Hari sekarang mudah boleh lah. Memanglah kalau ketiga 60 tu kita sihat dan sebagainya. Tapi nak kerja mana boleh nak ambil dah. Kalau dah duit dah tak ada. KWSP pun sekadar yang ada tu yang boleh habis waktu itu juga. Bukan dia dapat KWSP itu dah sampai 500,000 juta bagi kumpulan-kumpulan ini. Tambah-tambah kumpulan grade 40 bawah lagi tak boleh sampai. Paling tinggi berapa ya? 9 hingga sampai 11%. Kecuali dia bagi 30%, 50% ke KWSP, itu lainlah cerita. Tapi takkan kerajaan nak bagi macam tu, saya fikir.
Okay, so apa yang hendak ditekankan kat sini ialah kalau kita punya kadar KWSP contribution tu cecah 30 ataupun 50%, mungkin penjawat awam berkemungkinan akan lebih menerima cadangan yang diketengahkan oleh pihak kerajaan.
Boleh. Kalau nak buat jugalah. Akhirnya katakan kita pun dah tak bersetuju. Walau macam mana pun sebenarnya kita berkendakkan kepada pencen ini dikekalkan seperti mana yang sedia ada. Tetapi itu juga suatu keputusan kerajaan nak buat juga. Yang akhirnya sehingga tidak ada perundingan, perbincangan dengan pihak kesatuan, terutamanya Cuepacs. Saya menyokong penuh tindakan Cuepacs untuk membantah dan juga tidak bersetuju. Jadi kalau itu juga ada buat, maka naikkan kadar itu. Itu yang jalan yang ada. Tapi pada kita nak secara keras dan tegasnya menyatakan bahawa kita memang tidak bersetuju kalau baru ni statement kita membantah dengan pencen ini ditiadakan.
Okay, terima kasih banyak Encik Zulkifli. Now I just want to bring the attention back to our panel here on the floor. That was quite, the expression. I think everything was put on the on the table.
He was very clear.
He was very clear in terms of how he feels, or at least the Persatuan feels about this pension revision. Yeah. So maybe first things first, Cik Abdul Rahman.
Yes.
Tadi Cik Zulkifli cakap, pencen ni merupakan nadi kerajaan ataupun penjawat awam merupakan nadi kerajaan, dan among dia punya encouragement or at least motivation to work is the pension. Does Cuepacs echo this as well?
Pencen adalah satu yang saya sebut tadi lah, yang terbaik yang di Malaysia ni. Pencen di Malaysia lah. Jadi kalau kita lihat, kalau dah kita terima KWSP, memang KWSP ada kebaikan kalau gaji dia besar. Yeah. Kalau bagi pendapatan yang kecil ni, dia tak sebab mana yang kita tengok ni dia dapat. Cuma untuk kaki tangan yang memilih KWSP dalam sektor kerajaan, dia cuma kekurangan dia tak dapat gratuity. Dia cuma dapat pencen yang dia terima je, KWSP yang dia terima je dengan cuti tahunan yang disimpan. Itu yang dibayar. Bagi kalau yang bersara tetap dapat pencen, dia akan dapat gratuity, pencen bulanan, JCR yang dia disimpan tu, dan juga kemudahan perubatan. Cuma KWSP dalam sistem yang menerima KWSP dalam yang lepas tu 2016 kita ada fight dia untuk kepada kemudahan perubatan. Sebelum ni tak ada. Siapa ambil SP, dia kalau bersara kat BTH satu tak ada, dia dapat duit je. Ini yang ada yang kita fight. Tapi bagi pencen penuh memang dia dapat perubatan, kemudahan yang dapat, walaupun sudah bersara. Untuk contoh yang bersara boleh dapat naik separuh harga kan. Kemudahan pengangkutan. Ini yang mempertahankan, walaupun dia dapat RM1,000 tapi dia menghargai.
I also want to ask this question to Datuk Norma, because earlier he mentioned about, okay, fine, if the government eventually wants to do away with this pension scheme and, focus it, direct the allocations towards the EPF as well as SWRC, how realistic are we able to raise it to 30 or at least 50% contribution here?
Thank you. Currently, EPF employee under the EPF system, the employee and employer contribution is about 23%. Yeah. So, kalau 23% from our calculation, you need to retain when you retire at the age of 60. And if you want to get the minimum of 1,000 ringgit per month, and if you live until 80, you will need about 240,000. Yeah, so that's the calculation that we do. That is not taking into account that you have dividends and all that from there. But it's just talking about a very simple calculation, back of the envelope. 1,000 a month for 20 years, yeah, is about 240,000. Then you will get 1,000 a month, and that is achievable even if you earn a minimum wage, provided you do not take that you earmark or you keep certain amount and certain rate that should be reserved for that kind of pension.
Right.
Yeah? That is for 20 years. But if you live beyond 80, that's another story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but now we're talking about the life expectancy in Malaysia is about 75,
Right.
average 75, 76.
Yeah.
So that is our calculation.
Okay. Press, you want to add anything to?
Yeah, but actually, Datuk, I mean, realistically, 1,000 a month. Can you survive on 1,000 a month when you are, let's say, 70 years old and you need medical assistance? I mean, I think everybody knows in Malaysia, diabetes is an issue, heart disease is an issue. So when you sort of put in the medical costs, 1,000 doesn't sound like
No.
it will get you very far.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. 1,000 is not much. Yeah. But and especially if you have those kind of illnesses, the NCDs, which is prevalent among the senior citizens in Malaysia.
Yes.
So healthcare is universal in this country, meaning that every Malaysian can go to the government hospital.
Yes,
yeah,
that is
but
right.
you need other types of supplements or the simple flu medicine and all that. So 1,000 is a small amount.
Yeah.
So therefore, we encourage Malaysians to also save for old age, for retirement, not just to rely solely on the social security that we hope will be strengthened in the country. Yeah.
I guess that is where the argument from Cuepacs and also COCOM comes in, where even EPF is not enough. So how can you ask us to move from this really advantageous pension scheme and towards something which, again, there's no guarantee?
But would
Rightly so.
you fault the government for at least trying to ensure the fiscal dynamics of the country is not so volatile?
Again, you have to. It is the whole social
It's a
protection.
comprehensive. You have to look at it comprehensively.
Exactly.
Right, Datuk?
It's not one-dimensional. You cannot spend what you don't have or what you don't earn. So I just want to talk about the civil servants. The civil servants, as is, the government should be contributing on their behalf into the fund. And also civil servants should contribute part of their income into the fund. Only then the fund will grow. But our fiscal position is in need of reform as well.
Yes.
Because now our collection, our revenue stream is very limited, very narrow.
Yes.
And yet we're spending a lot more than what we earn. So we need to reform on how we have to earn more.
Yeah.
So our taxation system has to be reformed. So it cannot just be on one, fiscal is both the expenditure plus the revenue. So you have to look at both.
Yep.
Yeah.
And another unpopular topic, subsidy rationalisation.
Exactly.
Right, Datuk?
Okay, we have to wrap up this particular segment, but I just want to throw one question for each of our guests. Maybe untuk Encik Abdul Rahman first. Pension is not just about money, right? It's about the social security when it comes to medical of sorts, and that is what people want in their retirement. And then tadi kita bercakap tentang you bekerja sebagai penjawat awam. Itu merupakan simbol nadi untuk kerajaan kita. And then is this how you pay them back? So the question to you is adalah apa antara kekangan dari segi regulation yang tak ada sekarang ni? Kalau pension is one thing lah, tapi kalau let's say in the future, mungkin pihak Cuepacs boleh bagi pandangan dari segi apa yang patut kita buat dulu before kita move into EPF.
Patutnya kita kena ajak pejabat ni sambil mendapat pencen, sambil menabung. Kita tak menabung, kita betul dapat bayaran bayaran caruman daripada kerajaan saya. Macam saya masuk sebelum saya masuk kerajaan, saya belum tetap. Saya mencarum kat KWSP. Bila saya bersara, bila saya masuk ke tetap, yang akaun satu tu akan masuk kepada Kuap, pencen. Dan yang lebih tu saya boleh keluar. Jadi lepas itu saya tak carum. Yang mencarum adalah kerajaan lah. Kalau kita tanya dulu zaman 90-an, saya pernah ada di sana, dia orang memang tak nak kaki tangan mencarum. Masa tu gaji kecil. Gaji dia kecil. Jadi sekarang ni gaji dah meningkat. Sebab tahun 2000 hingga 2006 tu kita dah naik hampir 30%. Kalau kita tak naik tu gaji pejabat lagi kecil. Dan sekarang ni mungkin akan reverse dalam sistem baru ni. Sekarang kerajaan tengah buat kajian SWRC yang baru. Skim 5 tahun dah hampir 21 tahun tak semak. Yang ni memang kita masukkan isu pencen, isu gaji, isu allowance. Jadi kalau dia ada reverse tu, boleh kita pandangan lah. Pejabat yang baru kena menabung. Untuk dia menabung, dia pun mencarum untuk tabung dia. Dan Kuap ada memegang taruh skim pencen, dia boleh buat dana yang lebih banyak. Sekarang ni kerajaan je menjarum. Majikan je. Berapa banyak boleh dapat? Dia boleh dapat dalam hampir pun 3-4 bilion je. Sepatut kalau boleh dapat 10 bilion caruman daripada kaki tangan, mungkin dia boleh lebih tabung tu lebih besar dan dia boleh mampu untuk menanggung.
Okay, my question to Datuk Norma pula adalah, we want to have a positive outlook lah at the end of the day kan. What's the potential advantage of having a more flexible investment strategy when it comes to our retirement funds ni?
Retirement funds, so you are referring to both Kuap and KWSP, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think they are more flexible now than, let's say, 30 years ago, 30 years ago, they were not only a small percentage. I can't remember the exact percentage that they can invest outside the country, for instance. Yeah, but it depends also on what is the role of that fund. Yeah. If you are talking about a more sustainable, longer period of payment, such as pension, then the appetite for risk has to be different from when you are talking about short-term returns or medium-term returns. Yeah, so it depends on what is required of the fund to do. But then again, compared to other funds, they cannot be too taking a high risk either, even for paying out dividends. Yeah, because high risk would mean that you can also lose. Yeah. So investments, as you can see from the EPF portfolio, is quite diversified. So I think they are very good in terms of diversifying the appetite level. I mean the risk appetite level among the various investments that they have, the different portfolios.
Right. Now we're going to move into the low ringgit value that we have seen reported the past week. At least just yesterday, right?
Yes, all-time low of 3.55 to the Singapore dollar.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I think 2 episodes ago we were talking about the potential of it actually reaching 4. You know, with this diminished value of the ringgit against the Singapore dollar, it actually presents an advantageous situation for Johor, or at least Johorian businesses, making it an attractive destination for Singapore investment while boosting exports to the country. We have a clip, a vox pop of our Johorian businesses as well as Singaporean tourists. Let's have a look.
The Singaporean dollar strength has seen high numbers of Singaporeans crossing the border, leading to a retail resurgence for business owners and entrepreneurs. However, some Johorian business owners say they are still burdened. While most small and medium-scale enterprise owners and entrepreneurs are enjoying a high shopper volume and additional foot traffic, it does not quite translate to lucrative profits. This, they say, is due to high operating costs and increased cost of living in Malaysia as the ringgit hits a new all-time low.
memang barang kan semua naik tadi. Macam mana kita harap kepada orang Singapura yang mari belanja. Memang duit kita tak tahulah barang semua naik lah. Tak tahu ni nak cerita lah. Macam mana kita rakyat kita ni kira mujur nak ada orang Singapura sampai.
Of course, yeah. Especially with the weekend. Weekend is good. Friday, Saturday is good. Yeah. Sunday is a very fast. Singaporean people go back because Monday they start work. But last week example is different from this week. But example is not every week would be similar. It's totally different.
Sebab dia orang enjoy kalau 1 jam, contohnya dulu lebih kurang. Tapi sekarang kalau 1 jam, duit kita RM85 untuk 1 jam, baru $30 not bad, tak sampai rasa. So dia orang dia selalunya 2 jam atau 3 jam dia orang akan ambil. So satu customer akan sekurang-kurangnya dia akan habis dalam RM300 duit Malaysia. Terkesan juga, cuma dalam bisnes kita kena hadap lah. So kita try training balik, cari orang lain. Walaupun benda tu adalah salah satu daripada problem yang bisnes saya rasa kalau dalam servis kebanyakan akan hadap.
For me, the benefits is actually the amount compared to in Singapore, right? It's much more expensive to do massages there. So I find it's better for me to come down and do my massages here. It benefits me by saving a lot. Yeah, that's the most thing that it benefited me.
Given the lucrative exchange rates that we Singaporeans are enjoying against the weaker ringgit, I have personally advised my clients who are looking for opportunities abroad to consider Johor properties, especially the one nearest to the causeway. With the RTS link coming up, it's definitely going to be a capital growth potential for this development. On a personal note, my family and I, we are going for a holiday in the Zaru this coming Chinese New Year holiday. Yay! There's going to be 18 of us going to stay for 3 nights in the Zaru and enjoying, yes, the lucrative exchange rate.
There you have it. It's like mixed feeling. I think one trader just now was like, yeah, it's very hard for us, but you know, we have clients though. It's better than none, right?
I think it's quite clear that Singaporeans are happy and Malaysians are not.
Yeah.
Singapore happy.
I mean, it's 3.4,
3.55 yesterday.
Yes.
That's a lot, right?
Yes.
I mean, okay, so Datuk, maybe to understand the whole situation right now, in terms of trade flows, you know, influenced by long-term exchange rate rather than immediate spot rates, maybe you can explain to our audience how businesses adapt to this fluctuating exchange rate. How important is it for businesses to be agile?
It is very important. There is no long-term plan now is a variable. You know, it cannot be. Of course, you have to look at the longer horizon,
Right.
but planning cannot be that long. But exchange rate fluctuates, just like prices. You know, just like prices. So the business will have to take into account those. It will be cheaper. It is good for Malaysian when they export, of course, but they also import products.
Yes.
Yeah. So it depends. It depends on whether you are an exporter or you are importing. Maybe the medium goods, that input for your products. Yeah. So, but business would have taken into account the volatility of exchange rate. And business, if you're talking about export import, usually they are indexed to US dollars anyway. Yeah. So that will be a good business model because other currencies is hard for you to plan against this currency and that currency. But for many businesses, when they are trading outside, even if they're trading in Japan with the Japanese and all that, it's also in US dollars. Yeah.
I think when it comes to the strength of the Singapore dollar, I think everyone in Johor can benefit because as more Singaporeans come in, they start spending and all that. But something that all Johorians tend to say is that because of all these Singapore dollars coming in, the cost of living in Johor also is slightly higher than perhaps the other states. Maybe might even be on par with KL actually, if you look at it that way. Of course, there's no evidence to support that, but everyone feels that, you know, because of all this money coming in, therefore you see the cost of living, which is probably what the traders was talking about, how the prices are high. You know, so therefore your margins are lower. So, but I guess people are looking forward to investments coming into Johor. But I think one of the economists mentioned about how it does need to be something to stop the volatility, because in the long run, businesses, I guess, do not like uncertainty. Investors don't like uncertainty. So if it continues to be volatile, eventually you will scare the investors away. Datuk, perhaps if how do we make it stop? Basically, how do we stop the slide of the ringgit
just
again?
to retain investor confidence here,
Yes,
right? At least, particularly if not the nation, but the state of Johor lah.
I don't think there is any silver bullet, so to speak. But it's always we always go back to the fundamentals. Malaysia and Johor included, I think we have to strengthen our economy, because as is, even without the new exchange rate, Malaysians are going to Singapore to work, and there's a lot of positives, but there are a lot of negatives as a country too. And I think this you can see that's happening elsewhere. When you talk about border cities, Mexico, for instance, that how it would in a way disincentivize the Johorians, or for instance, to go for higher education, because they feel that, I can only study until SPM and go and work in Singapore, because it's more than triple. The salary is more than triple, even if they are paying the same 1,000 ringgit versus 1,000 Sing, for instance, or I think they are paying like graduates 3,000 something Sing dollars. Malaysians are also paying graduates 3,000 plus, but if they go to Singapore, they get 3 times more. So that is something that we have to work on. That how do we get high value add and high income industries to come to Johor. So hopefully the investments that's coming from Singapore is the high income type of investments, but not to be seen as transferring the low value add or low income type of activities into Singapore, into Johor. Then that will be like a double-edged sword, that we're getting the lower investments come, but they bring low income type of economic activities, and our people will remain at the low income, because there's not enough high skilled jobs coming into Malaysia now. So that's why wages are also at the low skill, and our small and medium are not upgrading technology. So it's like a spiral. It does not increase productivity, and we will always remain stuck with where we are, or at where we are now.
So Datuk, you're saying basically just because investments are coming in because of the attractiveness of us as an investment destination, we should be more particular about the kind of investments we accept. We should actually evaluate and see what is the bigger, or maybe the multiplier effect from the investment, rather than taking everybody in.
Exactly. And so I think whatever good, if Singapore is the headquarters, then the R&D plant and all that can be in Johor. That's good. If that happens. So that will be the kind of activities where our planners, our government and all that have to work in order to capitalize. I mean, we should not see it as a victim. We shouldn't feel as a victim, but take an opportunity that this is happening. So how do we do it? How do we get our young people to aspire, to aspire to educate themselves, to get good training and all that, so that they can get high income jobs.
Just want to ask the Singaporean real estate agent, if I'm not mistaken, she mentioned about the depreciating ringgit attracting investment inflows, right? How would it implicate local prospective home buyers or local investors? Because we don't want to flush out the domestic interest here. Right?
That is how urban planning should look at. How do you balance between increasing demand coming from Singapore, but not at the same time, so that our local house buyers are not at the losing end. Yeah. So you will have to plan for these things and take advantage of that. Yeah. There is a way of ensuring that our people can also afford to buy a place in Johor, despite the fact that there are Singaporeans coming as well. But without proper planning, without proper thinking into the way how we should take advantage of on this situation, will not contribute positively in the long run. Because as I said, this issue of neighboring cities, sometimes they have their own characteristics because of the nature of one high income and the other one is the lower income.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so at least if you are able to close the differential, that will be the way to go.
Actually, if you look at all the research reports that are coming out on the property market, right? Everybody's telling you if you're an investor, invest in Johor, because there's the RTS coming up. There's the Singapore Special Economic Zone, Johor Bahru Singapore Special Economic Zone coming up. There's a lot of activity right now in Johor, which makes it more attractive for you to invest in Johor. So therefore, you see a lot of property experts talking about that's the next place. That's Johor, that's Penang. I think there was one property consultant who mentioned that there are about 60,000 residences that are expected to come online in Johor itself. 60,000 developers basically in planning and approval. So that's a lot.
Still on this whole Johor economy boosting, and then how it's taking advantage of the Singaporean tourist or Singaporean dollar. Is there an emphasis on the need for strategic initiatives out there already? Datuk, are you seeing any of this being done by any organisations of sort in terms of ensuring the Johor state government could implement in maximising the benefits of the current exchange rate that we see at the moment?
I think because it's happening, and I would have thought that they would factor this in as well, because the volatility is not new. It's just that it's so bad this time. I mean, many years ago, it was equal. And then
the 80s, right, Datuk?
Yes.
In the 80s,
so I think they would have taken advantage. I mean, people always give example of Shenzhen, and China, Shenzhen and Hong Kong, so we should try to see whether we can capitalize on the fact that Singapore is the hub for many things, and like I said, how do we work on our structure in order for us to be able to take the advantage. So we've talked about this for 2 decades. So hopefully, this will speed up things.
Sorry.
I guess one I think initiative would be the Johor Singapore Economic Zone. I guess that would be to the benefit of both nations.
Exactly.
Actually, that would be something.
One last question before we wrap up the whole episode is that, I mean, when you talk about this cross-border movement between Malaysia and Singapore, and earlier on we were touching on the unfortunate brain drain that a lot of our talents are experiencing, because we a lot of our talents go to Singapore for their higher income rates, all sorts. But what's the implication when they come back and then they bring a lot of money, like the CPF? What will be the implication towards the allocation, the funds that they bring back from Singapore to Malaysia?
I think CPF is only for Malaysians who are PR residents.
But let's say they decide to come back.
Yeah, definitely. Any money coming in is good money.
So this is where I think that when I talk about social protection, if I can, continue the conversation, it's important because they are without any social security.
You mean the Malaysians working there?
The Malaysians working in Singapore. So especially if they are on contract, short contracts and all that, so what will happen? It will be the burden of the Malaysian government. When they are old or they are retired, they can't work anymore. Then they come back and fall onto our hospitals, social assistance from the government and all that. Hence, every Malaysian, we are proposing that every Malaysian at the age of 18 should contribute into a fund so that that become the social security and financial literacy. I think Malaysians should be taught on to save. Save is part of your expenditure.
Yeah.
It's the net that you save. It is part of you planning, to eat,
should be an expense.
It should be an expense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, at least 10% or 30%. If you have an EPF, if you don't have an EPF, it's 30%. If you already have an EPF, it's 10% of your income. And put it aside as like you're paying rental and all that, because that would ensure that when anything happens or when you have retired, then you have income.
It's nice to see how the conversation comes into full circle, right?
Yes,
We went from
that's right.
pension into like the importance of having a retirement savings, and then going into trading, and then ensuring that we know how to spend our money right. And then one thing you mentioned about our level of financial literacy in Malaysia is not necessarily the best. And this is probably one thing that the government should really look into, so that we have lesser friction in terms of, new proposals being introduced, I suppose. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of our episode. I would like to thank our guests here on the set. First, Professor Datuk Dr. Norma Mansor, thank you so much for being on Beyond the Headlines. We appreciate your time as well as your expert insights. And Encik Abdul Rahman Mohd Nordin as well from Cuepacs, thank you so much. And Prasanna for being my co-host today. To our audience back at home, thank you so much for watching. If you like this particular episode, subscribe, comment, and also follow us on other social media platforms such as X, Twitter, Instagram, as well as Facebook. My name is Amalina Kamal, and on behalf of our panel here, as well as the people back in the studio, we want to wish you a very happy Chinese New Year. Gongxi, gongxi! Thank you so much. See you next time.